This game was played between Anatoly Karpov and Jan Timman in a friendly match at the Groningen Chess Festival 2013. Anatoly Karpov claims central space by advancing the queen's pawn. Jan Timman develops knight to f6, a flexible and classical response controlling e4 and preparing for various defenses. Karpov aims to control the center and prepare for d5. Timman plays e6, reinforcing d5 square and supporting the development of the light-squared bishop. Karpov develops knight to f3, supporting the center and preparing kingside safety. Timman plays b6, typical in the queen's Indian defense, to fianchetto the bishop to b7 for long-range influence. White tries to fianchetto the bishop, strengthening control over the dark squares. Black responds actively by placing bishop on a6, aiming at white's strong light-squared bishop and contesting control of key diagonals. White plays b3 to protect the c4 pawn and solidify the queenside. Black pushes b5 aggressively, challenging white's pawns and aiming for queenside space and activity. White exchanges pawns on b5, opening the b-file. Timman recaptures with the bishop, maintaining active piece placement and pressure on white's queenside. Karpov develops the bishop by fianchetto, guarding the long diagonal and king safety. Black delivers a check with bishop to b4, forcing white's bishop or knight decision. White blocks the check with bishop to d2, developing a piece and limiting black's bishop. Black pushes a5, reinforcing the queenside pawn structure and restricting white's space. Anatoly Karpov challenges Timman's bishop on b4 with a3. Black exchanges bishop for bishop on d2, forcing white to recapture and slightly losing the two bishops' advantage. White recaptures with the queen, maintaining central control and flexibility. Black develops bishop to c6, pressuring center squares and ready to support queenside play. White castles to safeguard the king. Black repositions the queen to c8, eyeing the queenside and preparing for future doubling of rooks or pawn breaks. White moves queen to c2, supporting center and potential d5 pawn push. Black places queen on b7, aiming at the long diagonal and pressuring the b3 pawn. Karpov develops knight to d2, connecting rooks and reinforcing central control. Timman castles kingside for safety and rook activation. White places rook on c1, preparing to contest the c-file. Black moves rook to a7, a flexible move that can support defense or reposition to c7 or b7. White brings rook to a2, fortifying the second rank, preparing lateral defense or support. Black moves bishop to d5, a strong centralized post attacking key squares and coordinating with queen. White challenges the b5 pawn and prepares for queenside control. Black solidifies central pawn on d6, controlling e5 and supporting bishop. Anatoly Karpov repositions knight to e1, perhaps preparing f3 or c2 recapture. Timman captures bishop on g2, doubling Karpov's pawns if recaptured, weakening white's kingside structure. White recaptures on g2 with knight, maintaining defense around the king. Black develops knight to d7, supporting center and preparing later central breaks. White aggressively places queen on c6, penetrating black's territory and pressuring b7 pawn. Black responds by defending b8 with rook, buttressing the b7 pawn and preparing rook activation. Karpov doubles rooks on the c-file, increasing pressure on c7 and queenside. Timman plays h6, preventing white's knight or bishop infiltration on g5 and giving some luft for the king. White captures pawn on c7 with queen, winning material and invading black's territory. Black counters with queen to a6, attacking white's rook and eyeing weaknesses. White retreats queen to c4, keeping material balance and contesting control. Black exchanges queens, decreasing immediate threats but maintaining strong minor pieces. White recaptures with rook, holding open c-file. Black positions knight on b6, challenging white's rook and gaining queenside activity. Anatoly Karpov advances rook deeper into Timman's territory, attacking and occupying key squares. Black repositions knight to e8, defending critical squares and preparing to reroute. White advances central pawn, gaining space and preparing e5 push. Timman activates king by moving it to f8, anticipating endgame and avoiding back rank issues. Karpov develops knight to e3 to support center and cover weaknesses. Timman centralizes king, preparing to defend and support pawn structure. Karpov pushes d5 breaking center, attacking black's pawn structure. Black king moves centrally to d7, defending key squares and supporting pawns. White exchanges pawns on e6, opening lines. Black recaptures with pawn, creating a half-open f-file and a pawn chain, but doubled pawns create some weaknesses. White presses e5 aiming to restrict black's pieces and push for domination. Black responds with d5 blockade, cementing center and challenging white's pawns. White rook invades to c5, controlling critical squares and increasing pressure. Black king retreats to d8, waiting for further developments. Karpov pushes f4 for kingside space in support of e5. Timman moves knight to d7, defensive maneuver to guard key squares. White rook penetrates deeply, breaking black's setup. Black knight retreats to c7 to reorganize defense. Karpov advances queenside pawn, aiming to pry open lines. Timman responds by moving rook to b6, reinforcing the b-file. White captures rook on b6. Black recaptures with knight, maintaining pressure on center. White rook returns to exert control on 6th rank. Black knight moves back to d7 to block threats. White knight repositions to f3 to support center and control dark squares. Black knight retreats to b8, a defensive repositioning to avoid tactics. White knight moves to d4, an active central post controlling critical squares. Black king moves forward to d7, maintaining defense. White rook occupies 6th rank, increasing pressure. Black knight repositions to a6, perhaps aiming for c5 or b4. Karpov pushes f5 to pry open Timman's kingside and create attacking chances. Black knight moves to c5, countering and holding key squares. White captures, opening lines toward black's king. Black knight recaptures, maintaining control. Karpov moves rook to d6, delivering check and creating decisive threats. Timman resigns due to unavoidable material loss or mate threat. This game was a strategic battle in the Queen's Indian defense, Nimzovich variation, with Timman's active bishop and queen side play countered by Karpov's solid center and gradual penetration on open files. Karpov's well-timed pawn pushes and piece maneuvers gradually weaken Timman's position, culminating in a successful attack and final winning check on d6. Timman's attempts to hold queenside and central squares faltered under Karpov's persistent pressure and better coordination, leading to resignation at move 41. The game beautifully showcases central control, piece activity, and the importance of open files in delivering a decisive endgame advantage. Karpov's patient build-up and accurate tactical execution were key to securing victory. To watch many more such games of all the legendary grandmasters, you may visit the channel and subscribe to it. Don't forget to like and share the video if you like it. Thank you for watching.